Hello everyone, today is 18th of April, now it's 25 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is first news summary of the day from Russia. And well, there is quite a number of interesting developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. And first of all, this information from TASS news agency, according to which during the night time Russian air defense systems shut down 2 Ukrainian .U tactical missiles, also 19 missiles from different type of MLRS systems, 20 Ukrainian drones and 5 balloons that was also used by Kyiv regime in military purposes. Vzгляд newspaper also reporting that during the yesterday's Russian precise strike on point of concentration of Ukrainian military personnel in Chernigov, head of Ukraine's North Group of Forces, General Lieutenant Dmitry Krasilnikov was killed, and number of other high-ranking military personnel of Kyiv regime. Lenta.ru is reporting that Russian armed forces conducted successful local-scale offensive operations in Vremovsky salient area, which is formerly South Donetsk sector of the front line, and advanced towards Urozhaine settlement. Lenta.ru also reports that in Germany 161 kids have been found that was previously declared by Kyiv regime as kidnapped by Russia. I mean, how you can ever trust Kyiv regime, by the way? How you can ever trust Kyiv regime on anything, ever? I don't know. But Kyiv regime was blaming Russia for kidnapping these kids, 161 of them, and all of them have been found in Germany. And Kyiv regime continues, of course, to blame Russia for kidnapping kids, and in that case, we are talking about orphanages. Of course, orphanages were evacuated, obviously, from the line of contact. And if you are don't know what I'm talking about, orphanages are institutions where kids are living, kids that have been dropped by their parents and have nowhere to go. And from zone of special military operation, of course, Russian forces evacuated kids from orphanages, and they are receiving all necessary care. And for this, by the way, for this noble step from Russian side, I remind you that in March 2023, International Criminal Court issued arrest warrant for President of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova, ombudsman for kids, I believe. And Putin commented on that topic at the time, and he said, this is quote, by the way, well, should we leave orphanages there under artillery fire or what? Of course, the children were taken out from that zone of battles. Obviously, that's what responsible people should do. It's not questionable. And by the way, once again, Kyiv regime was blaming Russia for kidnapping basically everybody. And according to this information, 161 kids have been found in Germany that was by Kyiv regime were declared as a kidnapped. RIA Novosti is reporting that well, information has become more clear about this so-called Ukraine aid, 61 billion package of Ukraine aid, and well, seems like it's only a matter of days now. It's only a matter of days, and these funds will be approved by U.S. House. At least House Speaker Mike Jones is on, seems like on the same page as Biden's administration these days. And well, no surprises there, no surprises. I said from very beginning that it's only a matter of time, and US military-industrial complex will use all its influence to make sure that they're not gonna miss this possibly last big paycheck from Ukrainian crisis, and that's exactly what is going to happen. And when it comes to this 60 billion, 23.2 billion will be directly given to military-industrial complex of US to replenish depleted stockpile of US military. 13.8 billion will go to also to US military-industrial complex to purchase new weapon systems for Kiev regime, and 11.3 billion US dollars will go to fund the US military operations in the region. So basically, US is also openly admitting that they are conducting some military operations in the region where Ukraine is, and we all know what that operations are. Of course, US is directly involved in this proxy war against Russia and already lost hundreds of its military personnel, and will lose thousands more if Washington will not stop send its militaries there, disguised as mercenaries, but whatever the case, they have been exterminated and will be exterminated. Let's continue. And well, yesterday I mentioned this information that Kiev wants security guarantees from its Western backers, similar to level of protection that US provides to Israel, and this was stated by Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff Andrei Yermak, and according to him, some negotiations are taking place now to achieve a level of agreements between the sides, so that no matter who will be in White House or what political situation will be in the US, Ukraine will permanently receive some aid. Well, I'm not quite sure that if this information become widely available for US society, they will be happy that Washington is negotiations with Kiev to permanently guarantee some billions and billions for this most corrupt, or one of the most corrupt regimes in the world. But of course, Western media outlets not going to report about it ever. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, according to General Secretary or Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, this Friday, it's tomorrow Friday, isn't it? Yes, it is. So tomorrow, Council will take place of NATO Ukraine, and the main topic, Zelensky will go to Brussels, I guess, well, main topic of discussion will be air defense systems and munition, artillery, shells, and so on, that Zelensky and this terrorist regime in Kiev is desperately asking for everybody. Let's see what he will receive eventually, this Zelensky and his criminal associates. Interfax is reporting that US already spent about $1 billion to protect Israel from recent Iranian retaliatory strike, and also to protect ships in Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden from strikes from Houthi rebels or Ansar Allah movement. Not surprising at all that Pentagon already spent billion on these purposes. Pentagon can easily spend $1 trillion in a year if you give them an opportunity to steal as much money as possible. So that's what they do, man. It's a Pentagon, biggest money laundering machine ever created by humanity. RT is reporting that Georgia is to adopt controversial law despite pressure. And yes, the Georgian parliament adopted a controversial foreign agent bill in the first reading on Wednesday, despite opposition protests and warnings from the EU that legislation could jeopardize the country's ambitions to join the bloc. As you know, by the way, in 3 days in a row, there are some destabilization attempts in Georgia, the so-called opposition, non-governmental organizations, and the so-called media that is financed and controlled by the West, by US to be more precise, Washington and US Secret Services. They are desperately trying to destabilize situation, maybe even to conduct after some time regime change. It all depends on decision-making process in Washington. If Washington wants to conduct a regime change right now, then we will probably see further escalation in Georgia. But whatever the case, yesterday I shared with you information about statements of head of Georgia's parliament, that government of Georgia and majority in parliament will listen to Georgian society first, and will prioritize opinion of and interests of Georgian society, not Washington or Brussels or any other capital. And also in this information today we have a statement of Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Kobakhidze, who stated that the ruling party in Georgia will not cave in to foreign and domestic pressure. Speaking on Wednesday, Kobakhidze rejected criticism of the bill about these foreign agents, arguing that it would actually bring Georgia closer to EU by making the country more transparent. Well, I can see point that he is trying to make. I mean, you are saying that you are all about transparency in the West, isn't it? Then, no, let's be transparent here and let our society in Georgia know which politician has ties with which power center outside of Georgia, which politician has roots in some NGOs that was financed and still financed, used to finance and are still financed from there outside of Georgia. Let's see what NGOs are financed from outside of Georgia. Why not? And which media outlets are receiving funds from outside also. Let's see these people, I mean, who working for whom? It's all about transparency, isn't it? But Washington, Brussels, other capitals in the West are quite critical of Georgian government for this second attempt, by the way, to implement this law about foreign agents. And we all understand why they are not happy. They don't want Georgian public, Georgian society to know that vast majority of these so-called NGOs and politicians and media, so-called media, have direct ties and financial interests in the West and receiving funds and therefore working to promote Western interests. That's all it is, really. And we all perfectly well understand this, isn't it? Anyway, let's continue. As I said earlier, if Washington, unfortunately, Washington has a huge grab on Georgia, huge influence for decades, by the way, and Washington has its assets, I'm afraid, not just in the so-called opposition or non-governmental organization and the media, but also in security services of Georgia, in armed forces, even in the ruling party. I'm quite sure about it, that US has its assets there. And therefore, they can easily sabotage Georgia, by the way. They can easily destabilize Georgia and sabotage. And if that's what Washington plans right now, then I'm afraid Georgia is entering very difficult times. Although Washington may destabilize Georgia in autumn, when I believe parliamentary elections supposed to take place there. Because of this immense influence of Washington, then I mean, it all depends on it. It all depends on decision-making process of Washington, how situation will develop in Georgia. Sled newspaper is reporting that the president of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, commented on Russian language and said that it is stupid when in certain areas there is some fight against Russian language. And well, hard to disagree with him, isn't it? If someone or some group of people is fighting for banning language, for example, that means that they are basically for banning entire culture and people that belongs to that culture. And that's, by the way, not just stupid, that's a crime. That's what we call Nazism and fascism. That's a crime, by the way. And in my update on Patreon today, I will talk a little more about this topic, because recently there was some issues in Kazakhstan also when it comes to Russian language, and I believe not without Western involvement. Although I will talk about this on my Patreon. RIA Novosti is reporting, and I mentioned this in yesterday's second news summary, that Russian peacekeepers are leaving Nagorno-Karabakh in Azerbaijan, Southern Caucasus region. And the press spokesman of Russian President Dmitry Peskov confirmed this information to Russian media. RT is reporting that Japan, to retain oil and gas interests in Russia, Japanese companies hold minority stakes in Russian fuel projects in the Far East. Okay, all the details on my Patreon. RIA Novosti is reporting also that France become a main European buyer of Russian gas, Russian liquefied natural gas in February. Statistics data is available now for February, and we know that on level of politics, we all know how French leadership is acting, how aggressively towards Russia. But when it comes to business, French business and French economy continues to cooperate with Russia, and they are buying more and more Russian liquefied natural gas. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Roscosmos conducted first testing excuse me, first testing of the new engine for Angara A5M heavy launch vehicle or rocket. And once this new engine, which is based on RD191, this is world famous engines, by the way, once this new type of engine will go in production, then this new Russian rocket Angara A5M will be able to deploy even heavier payload into the orbit, although Angara A5 already is capable to deploy about 20 tons of payload to the orbit, which is quite significant also, because there is only few rockets in this world and few countries in this world that has such a capabilities to deliver this heavy payload into the orbit. TASS news agency is reporting that Elon Musk, founder of the SpaceX, commented on Russia's ambitious plan to introduce basically Amur SPG renewable or reusable, I should say reusable launcher vehicle or rocket, space rocket. And Elon Musk commented on this and said that, well, he would like to see this rocket. Roscosmos stating that this Amur SPG will be much more capable than rockets that SpaceX is using, reusable rockets that SpaceX is using, although of course it will take time before Roscosmos will introduce this new type of rocket. And finally, I will share with you information about Russian currency, Russian ruble. And according to Russian central bank, they conducted a survey among Russian financial experts and about their prediction of Russian ruble, how currency will do in upcoming few years. And according to experts, in 2022, average exchange rate of the ruble will be 92.93 rubles for $1. And in 2026, average exchange rate might reach 98 rubles for $1. So I will say quite optimistic forecast on part of and when it comes to, for example, 95, experts are predicting 2025. Experts are predicting that average exchange rate will be about 95.9 rubles for $1. Let's see, but I believe this is quite optimistic forecast. In my opinion, in 2025, ruble exchange rate definitely will be above 100 rubles for a dollar, and for 2026 it might even reach 120 or more for $1. It would be good for exporters, because Russian export will become more competitive on the world market. Although of course it will generate some additional inflationary risks, additional risks for inflation, and in any case, the central bank had to do quite a work to keep inflation under double digits. But yet again, I'm not financial expert. How should I know? When it comes to real experts in finances, they are predicting that ruble will stay under 100 rubles for a dollar, at least until end of 2026. And this is it for now. Quite short video, I guess. Yes, it is quite short video. Hopefully you will find it informative and interesting, and if so, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, and if you want longer updates, if you want some more news and my commentary on some topics, if you are interested in it, then please consider to subscribe to my Patreon page, on which I have regular updates, news updates, and also some additional extra content, not necessarily about news and politics. And finally, before I go, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. This is the only way we can influence algorithm. So yes, this is it for now. Have a great day and take care.